Recording in progress.
Okay, the time is now 7 p.m. I call to order our meeting for Tuesday night, February 18th, 2025. For all of those that can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all. All right, thank you. With that, Amanda, will you take roll call, please?
Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Freimark.
Here.
Councilmember Friend.
Here.
Councilmember Houston.
Here.
Councilmember Rounds and Councilmember Dowdy requesting to be excused this evening.
Move to
Okay.
excuse.
With that, we will move into presentation from Kittleson's on exit 21.
Do we need to move to
Mayor, we have to do a motion to excuse the two missing council members this evening.
So moved.
I absolutely agree. I did not hear a motion made, so if there was a motion made, go for it. Do we have a
Motion
second?
made by Councilmember Hall, who was second,
Second.
and seconded by Councilmember Friend.
Perfect. Take a vote, please.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
Councilmember Houston.
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark.
Aye.
Perfect. The ayes have it. My apologies. I did not hear the motion and the second on that. All right, let's get into our exit 21 update from Kittelson. So again, just a level playing field for everyone. What we've asked them to do is every quarter to come walk us through where we're at. Obviously, I think over the last couple months had some discussion around roundabouts versus signaled. They were going to come last month in January. A little bit further discussion was had around the signals versus the roundabouts. So with that, I will turn it over.
Great. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to present in front of you again. I think the last time that Darren and I were here in front of the community was back in October. And maybe just a very quick recap. I think at that point we were still working with WSDOT and FHWA on some documentation that WSDOT requires to help with the process of ultimately trying to get to a recommended final alternative. So since that time, we've actually completed, and I'm going to go through the agenda in a little bit, but we have completed the majority of the work that WSDOT's been asking for in terms of what's called a non-access feasibility study, as well as an intersection control evaluation. So the bulk of today is going to talk a little bit about that progress, and then we'll walk through some other coordination efforts that we're working on with both FHWA as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. So Travis, next slide, please. So pretty similar. I mean, we try to be here probably every other month or every third month, but hopefully the presentation overview is pretty familiar. We're going to talk a little bit about the current activities and general updates to the group. We'll go over the work plan and the latest schedule, and then talk over some next steps. So next slide, please. So this slide has a lot of information. I think this is kind of where we're going to spend the bulk of our time, but as I mentioned before, we prepared and submitted what's called the draft non-access feasibility study ICE. So what that was is that was taking information that the project team had completed during the planning phase, and there's some additional analysis and work that we had done, coordination work that we had been doing with WSDOT. We prepared the documentation that WSDOT requires and had submitted that It's under WashDOT review right now. We've had a couple of coordination emails as well as a conference call meeting with WashDOT. So we're still in the process of gathering some feedback, but some of the major updates that we have for the group right now is that the biggest part from when we did, I'll call it the phase 1 planning study to what we're doing today is we revised the safety analysis using more relevant crash data that WashDOT provided us. The study that we had provided a few years ago, there's been a couple of years since then, so we worked with WashDOT to get the latest and greatest crash data to kind of refreshen up the safety analysis. The other, I'll call it kind of moving forward major milestone is that we did, and most of you probably had seen some survey crews around the communities the latter part of last year. Survey crews collected the data, so we actually have topographic survey information. So we were able to use that topographic survey information to take a closer look at both concepts, looking at right-of-way, looking at property impacts and things like that. So that's something that we've been working on ongoing as well. And we documented that information and passed that along to WashDOT as well for their review. And then in addition to that, as some of these moving parts are happening, we're continually also trying to update the cost estimate. So that's, I'll call it, that's kind of one of the other major elements that we looked at from the previous planning study to the work that we had been completing right now. I think the biggest thing, though, that we've been working on that is completely new from the planning study to what we've been doing now is what's called this benefit cost analysis. And so that's that sort of last item there. The non-access study that we had been producing, and you'll hear me say intersection control evaluation, or a lot of times we call it the ICE, intersection control evaluation. That is an actual analysis procedure plus some steps that WashDOT documents in their design manual. It's to help engineers and planners and those that are sort of trying to pin down, here's an intersection control form based on certain analysis. Here are the things that we're looking at to try to come up with a recommended alternative. So the ICE is that process that helps us navigate, I'll call it, the WashDOT procedures. We completed the draft ICE, and that was kind of the biggest thing, which also included a benefit cost analysis. And so as part of that benefit cost analysis, we looked at safety, we looked at economic impacts. The benefit cost, a lot of it centered on vehicle delay as well as safety, and that sort of correlated to the savings or cost impacts related to both of those elements. So that's the delay and safety, just to say that again. And then, you know, a lot of the value of time and crash cost parameters, that information was directly provided by WashDOT to us to be able to run the benefit cost analysis. So really, in conclusion, it's really that last bullet there. While we've worked on this revised analysis, we're working with WashDOT right now. It is currently still under review by WashDOT, and so we're still expecting to receive some more review comments, and then the Kittelson team will work with WashDOT as well as the city to kind of refine some of the analysis and the concepts. Right now, what the results are showing us is that the roundabout concept is that considered preferred alternative moving forward. And of the listed bullets there, starting from traffic operations all the way down to benefit cost analysis, really the ones that are bolded there for, like, for example, traffic operations, the pedestrian bike connectivity, systems-wide circulation, and opportunities to construction phase, still didn't see a lot of differences from when the previous study was done when we were comparing the signal and the roundabout concept. They're both good alternatives, both showing pretty well in terms of kind of the advantages and disadvantages of the both. It's really coming down to some of those highlighted elements of safety, the right-of-way impacts, looking at the revised costs, because the cost estimate and the safety is what's feeding into the benefit cost analysis. And so we're really seeing the benefit cost analysis showing a much favorable outcome when we're looking at a roundabout in terms of safety and the benefit cost as it compares to the signal. So as of right now, I'll just kind of repeat that again. The roundabout concept is considered the preferred alternative. That's sort of what's written in the draft documentation that WashDOT's reviewing. Next page, please. So the next one is just, this is a graphic I think everybody has seen for quite a while now, actually. So this is the roundabout concept. And so We are actively re-looking at this based on the work that we're doing with the city and with WashDOT. And then I'm going to pretty quickly turn it over to Darren. He'll kind of talk through just some of the areas that we're looking at in terms of further evaluation and refinement. So I'll kind of turn it over to Darren.
All right, thank you. Good to see everybody again. So as Anthony mentioned, this image or this exhibit, I think, is probably pretty familiar to everybody from all of the previous phases and work of the project. It is a series of 3 roundabout intersection improvements, 2 at the ramp terminals with I-5, and then 1 with the local street connections near the park and ride. Currently, these are set up as multi-lane roundabouts, and we don't anticipate that configuration really changing. But we will look at options for staging that construction from a lane perspective, and that's what some of the traffic analysis that's currently ongoing will help us determine. We're also going through some layout revisions, making sure that current design standards are applied. This layout was done 5+ years ago, and WashDOT design manual gets updated on a pretty regular basis, so obviously need to be compliant with what the latest standards are for that. In addition, as Anthony mentioned, we actually have survey now, and so what was prepared previously was based on mostly aerials, really low resolution survey data, and so this will be tying more into the very much detailed XY from the survey that we conducted. One thing that doesn't show up on this map that we'll also be looking at is a shared use path on both sides of the connection under the freeway. This is in coordination with WashDOT recently on some of our updated analysis and the updated design standards, and we'll be looking at providing those facilities in both directions, not just on what was previously the north side of the roadway. And that'll maybe shift what the road connection looks like as we're trying to skirt the existing bridge structure, not impact the piers or have to do any work on the bridge itself. And then, of course, WashDOT access control is going to dictate how we connect to certain properties from an access control perspective. We'll work through that process with WashDOT as well. And then just overall coordination, again, on different developments and things that may be in process or maybe planned for the future, just to make sure we're making those properties still accessible. Next slide, Travis. All right, so some updates on current activities. We've really ramped up our coordination with the WashDOT team and FHWA. We're in the process of preparing this design documentation package. So the work that Anthony is doing on the non-access feasibility study, benefit cost analysis will get rolled in with a bunch of other data that becomes the decision package, if you will, documenting all the decisions that have been made for the project. So that'll include a basis of design, why we're doing what we're doing, design parameters, so the criteria that we use, things like design speed or lane widths, widths for the shared use path, turning vehicles that we're going to be looking at. The safety analysis and all the different traffic operations will be documented in this as well. And then we'll put together what's called a plan for approval. And this is sort of in 2D geometric layout of the improvements that will get reviewed and approved by WashDOT. And then that becomes the basis for what we move forward. Any future decision or discussion point, did you look at X, will refer back to this package to help inform how we move that forward. And we don't want to backtrack on decisions that are already made. We'll also prepare alignment plans and profiles for that work, and then, as Anthony noted, updates to cost estimate as we go through. Next slide, please. We talked about some current activities, which the slide keeps getting moved forward in our presentation. Number one is geotechnical services. We've been trying to get our coordination and permit with the Corps of Engineers to get out and do geotechnical investigations, which is complicated because we're on top of a levee in a lot of the location of this project. And so that process has occurred. We actually heard back today that they've got some questions on some of the work that we've put together for that permit application to start their review. And so we'll keep that coordination moving. Once we get the approval, then we'll be pretty quick to get out in the field, start collecting data, and have that to be able to inform our design details. Similarly with stormwater and water quality, there haven't been any changes to the federal requirements for endangered species and how we deal with stormwater runoff. We still have to do the biological assessment at this point for the project, and that's going to really affect our schedule, which I'll talk about here on the next, in a couple of slides. So the geotechnical work and the stormwater work will ramp up once we get through the design documentation process and really get into a PSD phase, what we call plans, specs, and estimate. Really getting the details on the page and how we get the design put together. Next slide, please. I showed this slide the last time we were together. It really is specifically focused on the levee and information that we've had to provide. Really, the key factor here is that we have to show the Corps that the work that we're doing, the investigations aren't going to damage the integrity of the levee. And so, once we get through that process and get their permit and they're satisfied, then we'll move that forward and do the investigations. Next slide, please. All right, so schedule. We are this month and next month hoping to finalize the non-access feasibility study and the intersection control evaluation work, as well as the design documentation package with WashDOT. Because we are proposing as the preferred alternative roundabouts, there's a peer review process that we have to go through with WashDOT that'll really it's just an iterative process to really get the geometry down set to the current best practices for that roadway design element. From March through December of this year, we'll start working through environmental review documentation and all the details that we need to submit our biological assessment. That'll include cultural and historic resource review, noise analysis, the stormwater analysis and reporting will have to be done, our geotechnical report. Structural design will be a part of this project. We had always anticipated that with where we're placing the shared use path between the piers and the abutment of the bridge on that sloped area. So there will be some wall analysis and work that has to go into there. We'll start reaching out to utilities to inform them about the project and really understand the impacts to their facilities, and then moving our design from a 30% to a 60% package, at which point at 60% is when we would submit for the biological assessment. And then that's our biggest schedule driver, is the amount of time that it's going to take for coordination and review for the biological assessment and to get that process complete. The latest estimates that we had heard last year was 2 to 3 year time process to get through that. And you can't really move towards a final package and bidding for construction until that's complete. So with that time frame estimate, 2028 estimated for completing the biological assessment, and then 28 and 29 for final design, and then bidding for the project and construction. Next slide. So I can do this. Yeah, our next steps kind of laid it out with the schedule, but finishing up the work with the feasibility study and the intersection control evaluation, working through the design documentation with WashDOT, getting that approved, getting our geotechnical and structural design work started, and then working through the environmental review and permits for the project. And that's what we have. Time for some questions. You anything you want to say, Riley?
I got a question.
Okay, yeah, question.
It seems like there's so much red tape and bureaucracy to jump through to get this done. Has it ever been considered of trying to get the state to give control of the road back to the city, so it's not, at least through town, through the city limits, so they don't have to go through all the crap just to get anything done?
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if Riley or Travis have an answer.
Yeah, that would be a hard press through WashDOT. They would be very limited on availability to release WashDOT right away through there, to release it back to the city. I think that we deal with that all the way out 503 to city limits.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If we could get it out through the city limits to where they don't have any control of it, seems like we could get things done a lot quicker.
I would add that regardless of 503 and jurisdictional transfer, we still have I-5 and the ramps for I-5, and that would be the trigger coordination with WashDOT on this one, and FHWA for that matter. Yeah.
With the bioassessment, I think that's like one of the biggest blocks of time, 2 to 3 years. Is that typical 2 to 3 years? Are you seeing that? Have you done other studies that it actually turns in 2 to 3 years? Or is it a scenario where you expect 2 to 3 years and then it drags out longer than that ever?
That's a good question. What we've heard is that the 3 years is kind of a maximum that people have experienced. So the 2 to 3 years, I think, is probably conservative. Can't guarantee that it'll be faster, but it could be.
And then with that, I think there was some talk earlier on that we were uncertain if we needed that or did not need it. So I'm assuming we've concluded that we do have to take that step.
Yeah, as it stands right now, the biological assessment will be required.
Okay.
Because of the funding and how it's routed, we are not qualified to use WashDOT local programs and the WashDOT agreements with federal highways, and so that's what's requiring the biological assessment. WashDOT's going through processes to update their agreements, but we don't know when that'll be approved or not.
So is it feasible that that could happen somewhere along the timeline?
It could.
Okay.
It could, and it may change our approach, but for now, we have to assume that it won't. Yeah.
Thank you.
I see the roundabout, number 3, that the park and ride, is that going to be affected any?
There'll be impacts to the park and ride. Just the width of the road with the 4 lanes coming between those 2 intersections. There's nothing that we can do to avoid the park and ride and to provide that capacity. So there will be some revisions, probably some impacts to parking stalls, and our understanding, WashDOT owned facility, so we'll be coordinating with WashDOT on that.
Okay.
Any questions? All right.
So, hey, Darren.
Hi, Todd.
I didn't know if somebody else was speaking in the room. Sorry.
No,
So,
if you have a question,
I do have
please go ahead.
Yeah, I do have some follow-up question for you, or it's probably an Anthony question, but I think you all know safety is my biggest priority here and what we can do for the community. We touched on very quickly about the roundabouts being quote-unquote safer. Can you just touch on that a little bit? Because I really want people to understand what is driving the safety of one selection, roundabouts versus the signal. Can you touch on that, Anthony?
Yeah, I can definitely start, and then I think Darren can kind of chime in as well. But I think at the end of the day, what the roundabout provides is just even the approach geometry, the geometry of the roundabout. The geometry itself helps drivers slow down as you get closer into the roundabout. And then as the drivers are also entering the roundabout at slower speeds typically, there's also less conflict points. So we've all probably driven through roundabouts. As you're entering a roundabout, you're really looking at your left, and that's sort of that one conflict point that's coming through. For traffic signals, it's a little bit different, and obviously every traffic signal situation is a little bit different, but ultimately it's that light that's controlling it. But there really isn't that geometry per se, like a roundabout, that is controlling the approach speeds or how fast a vehicle can actually go through the signal. So even though one vehicle may be able to go through a signal at its potential posted speed of 25, 35, 45 miles an hour, there's really no geometry or anything that's affecting it, the ability for the vehicle to actually go even faster. And then obviously when you get into situations where there's like red light runners and things like that, and there's more conflicts, because now with the traffic signal, if you're, let's just say, going through the traffic signal, there's potentially through movements coming on both sides. So that creates a lot more conflict points. And so I think when folks start talking a little bit about the safety benefits of a roundabout, compared to either a traffic signal or let's call it a two-way stop control, so basically an intersection with stop signs, the roundabout itself inherently has the physical geometry to slow vehicles down. Plus, because of how vehicles enter and exit a roundabout and how they circulate through, there's less conflict points as well. So that's primarily the two. I don't know if I'm missing anything else.
No, I mean, when we talk about geometry or geometric design, we're really talking about curvature. So instead of just having like straight lines through the intersection, you have to turn. You have to make curved movements to get through the roundabout, and that's a big part of what slows people down at the intersection. So that's the only thing I would add.
Perfect. Thank you, Derek and Anthony.
One more question, Mr. Mayor. Looking at the map, the AM, PM gas station, looks like it's only going to have one egress, egress to the east side. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I think on the graphic right here, and I think Darren said it well, I think this is something that we prepared a number of years ago. That is something that we're going to take a look at, not only just for that property, for all the affected properties. So actually one of our next steps is as we continue to, I'll call it coordinate with WashDOT and get more information and more solidified what the preferred concept. One thing that we absolutely want to do is we want to start engaging and really having some one-on-one meetings with representatives of property owners. So they could be the owners themselves, or they could be the representatives that are representing the owners themselves, but like to be able to kind of get down and physically meet with people, look at access points, look at our options, get a better understanding of sort of operations of not only the vehicles that access on a daily basis, but there could be delivery vehicles. In this case, there could be fuel trucks that are coming through here. So we will want to take a look at that property by property.
Yeah, making that straight behind AMPM, I think would be a horrible idea.
The traffic coming off of I-5 northbound, so all the vehicles are going to be turning off to the right, correct?
Yeah, any vehicle that's coming off of I-5, there's going to be sort of, I'll call it an opportunity to be able to, if you want to go over the CC Street Bridge, right now the current design calls for a dedicated right turn lane or a slip lane. So a vehicle coming off of I-5 should be able to kind of take that right turn maneuver and then head over to over the bridge and then onto whatever destination they're going to. For any other vehicle that wants to either go, I'll call it through the intersection or turn left or right, they will approach the roundabout. They will enter the roundabout circulatory roadway, and then they'll make the decision or have the opportunity to be able to, I'll call it head eastbound on 503, head northbound, or obviously take what we call a left turn on the roundabout to head westbound.
Just like they have in the center.
Just like how they have in
Right,
the center,
like in the
correct?
center.
Yeah, yep. And if anyone's ever interested, one of the, obviously roundabouts aren't a new thing. I think one thing that is a little bit unique on this is you all probably noticed it's the 5-legged roundabout, and then obviously we have a roundabouts in series. There's actually another set of roundabouts, and I believe it's in Yakima. It's in the Tri-Cities. That's one thing if anyone wanted to kind of Google Earth that, but it's a similar configuration as well. Yeah. Great questions. Was it Union Gap? Yeah.
They have some up in Kent too that are pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
I just got a quick question on foot traffic, because I know sometimes that traffic, you know, they bumper to bumper coming off there. How do you get foot traffic across there?
You're the geometry.
When I was going through earlier, I mentioned the shared use path, and for the mayor, I don't know if you heard the question. The question was about foot traffic and how they're getting through there. But so as it is shown in this exhibit, we have a 10-foot wide shared use path, which would be for bicyclists or pedestrians on the north side of the alignment going between the bridge or between the roundabouts under the bridge. And so, you know, at each of the legs, you'll see kind of little white bars on the screen here. Those are, you know, effectively striped crosswalks. So pedestrians can come up to the roundabouts, cross through the islands in the middle of the lanes, get to the other side, and work their way through and under the bridge to the other side. What we'll be looking at is adding a second shared use path, which would be on the south side. So there would be, you know, effectively that connectivity on both sides, both directions of the highway. So effectively it's like having sidewalks. They're just wider to accommodate both bikes and pedestrians so that they don't have to be on the road.
I have a question. Would they not allow, like, between Safeway and the overpass to have a going south, get in on the freeway there and take a little pressure off of the roundabouts? Was that even under consideration, or will they allow that?
It wasn't considered, at least as part of this project. I think part of the, one of the things that we did look at was we were trying to minimize any impacts onto the main line. And so one of the documents that we had mentioned before, which is that non-access feasibility study, The non-access feasibility component of it is that we're demonstrating to FHWA and WashDOT that we're not impacting either any type of impacts to the main line on I-5. If we were impacting anything to I-5, which would include any new ramp connections, or even if we were changing some of the connections of the existing ramps to I-5, that would actually take it to a complete different type of analysis, complete design criterias and things like that. Bit more, maybe quite a bit more complicated as well at that point. So yeah,
Okay.
yep, good question though.
I just wanted to also point out that previously the city of Woodland had done the Scott Avenue overpass, and it was, I believe they analyzed, it was either 16 or 18 different configurations, and they had considered that as one of the potential options. And if I remember correctly, I read in the report that it was dismissed because having an on-ramp at that point would only collect traffic from the exit 21 off-ramp and Scott Avenue, so that there was insufficient trips, like you couldn't go to Safeway and then get on the highway. You would have to go all the way up to Scott Avenue, do a U-turn, and then use an on-ramp at that point. So there was no critical mass for trips that justified exploring that any further.
Any other questions or comments? I appreciate both you coming and discussing this tonight. Obviously, more work to be had. I appreciate what is there so far.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
No, thank you both. Have a great night. Drive careful. Home safe. Okay, items not on the agenda. Keith, I believe you are the only one signed up, so come on up, sir.
Good evening. Planners Days this year it does not fall on the same weekend as Father's Day, just for your information. Generally it does, but this year it does not. It falls the weekend after. It's June 19th through the 22nd this year. We're still considering sponsors and prizes, and anybody that wants to be involved, come and see me. We're working out if somebody's going to actually do a beer garden there this year, so we don't know for sure about that. We should have tickets within the next week, and the princesses will come to City Council here on March 17th. The senior enrichment group has offered to do the strawberry shortcake, which we haven't had for a few years, for the coronation, and so we're looking forward to that as well. Any questions?
Nope. I appreciate it. I do want to emphasize what you said there is that Father's Day and Planters Days are two different weekends. Planters Days is third weekend of the month. This year, Father's Day follows on the second. So appreciate you making that clear there, Keith.
Okay.
Are they gonna, whoever's doing the beer garden, are they gonna require them to have like extra security of their own to, you know,
Was there an issue?
well, there probably will alcohol involved. I'm sure there'll be some.
Yeah,
kind of
there is.
issue.
Well, we've done it for 3 years and haven't had an issue so far. So
Curious.
it's been pretty good. And the
Yeah.
police
What was
departments.
the question, Keith?
The question was whether we needed more security.
I said that is whoever's doing it gonna provide
Got
their
it.
own.
Yeah, it hasn't been an issue so far. We haven't had to have any kind of extra security for anything at Planners Days really. So, yeah, I haven't seen anybody getting crazy in our beer gardens too much. So we'll hope that continues. We don't know whether we'll have one again this year, but if so, it's a fun thing. I think people like it. Any other questions?
Hey, Keith, just a silly question. What's the deciding factor of whether there will be one or not? I'm just.
Well, a
So the
nonprofit
community
has to take ownership of it.
Okay, so you're looking for a nonprofit to come
Yeah,
as a way as a fundraiser for them.
correct.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Keith. Anything else from anyone in the audience or online for items not on the agenda? Oh,
We have one, Mayor.
oh, go ahead.
Can you see me?
Yes.
I can see you. Yes.
Where are you? Right here?
I'm actually celebrating my granddaughter's
No, not
second
that
birthday
physically.
in
I meant the
Texas.
camera.
Yeah, in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I
fine.
can see you, Miss Brown. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't prepare very well. I was just emailing this morning with somebody from code enforcement within the city, and she encouraged me to come tonight and share my concerns. So I've been emailing with her about a specific property that is in disrepair, and the last couple weeks there's actually been emergency services called out, and they weren't able to locate the home due to there's a house in the front that is inhabitable. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Nobody's living there except for rodents. And the only thing that but there's tenants that live behind that, and they can't. So both times that emergency services came, they weren't able to locate the house, which at the first time was scary because they came and knocked on my door asking if anybody was choking, and a choking emergency every second counts. And so I think they got the person out okay today. Did you have?
Are you talking about Pat Reichel's property?
Yes. I didn't want to name names, but I guess I'm in real estate, and it's difficult. It's frustrating. We all know we're in a housing crisis. Everybody's struggling. We all are. And it's frustrating seeing taxes go up and then still having that right next door. And there's several properties like that in town. And I love this town. I love this place. I like so much. And so it's frustrating that, there's so many of us that work so hard to make our homes look nice and make our town look nice. And we're going to, Planters Day, we're going to do an event on Park Street called Woodland Strongest. And we had a ton of spectators. And so it's just one of those things. I don't know. I know there's only so much code enforcement can do. And so I guess I'm just here asking City Council if there's anything else you guys can do to kind of help.
What's funny is I was going to bring the same thing up tonight because there's a couple of other properties around town that had some issues with similar to that. So.
Okay, yeah. So that was just my 2 cents. I don't necessarily.
No. Hey, Molly.
Yes.
Silly question for you. Yes, I can see you, so sorry.
It's okay.
It works great, though, and I still get to celebrate my granddaughter's birthday.
Oh, good.
So I'm assuming when you said you were emailing with the city, you emailed with code enforcement today?
Yes.
And worked through that? Okay. I will follow up with Bretta. So I do have to give shout-outs to Bretta. She's done great. We had 18
fantastic.
or 19. Yeah, we had 18 or 19 complaints that were out there when she started. She has cleared through those.
Yeah.
So I will get follow-up on here.
Yeah.
Know that there will be follow-up from Bretta as well.
Yeah.
So
I
I
sing her praises all day. Like, so excited that she's in here. So good job, whoever hired her. Great. Nice work.
So,
that's all.
So excellent. Thanks, Molly.
Question. At what point can the city step in on a property that's overrun or garbage? At what point can they do something about it?
Any other questions, comments?
So, Mayor, Councilmember Houston just asked me at what point the city could step in. The city does have an abatement code, which means that after we take a certain amount of steps and give the opportunity for the applicant or the property owner to remedy the violation, the city could step in and take action, and that is an option that is available to us. So far, we've sent a few mailings, and we've knocked on the door several times, and I just found out today whose property it was, and we made a commitment tomorrow that we are going to reach out to that person because we know they are out and around the community. So we just need to find the staff member who has their cell number and reach out to them and see if we can't rattle their cage rather than just knocking on their door when they're not at home. So we're gonna take a more aggressive action now that we know who it is, and so we should be able to get this taken care of without actually having to use the city time and money.
They park backwards on the street all the time, and it literally is going to people that park the wrong way?
So the city does have a portal on the website where you can file a complaint, and we normally work with the police department to take care of that, because if it's a motor vehicle, that would actually fall under the police department. But generally, they aren't necessarily on top of that all the time, so Bretta's working well with them to bring that to their attention. Sergeant Lip has taken care of a couple problems for her since she's got here.
Thank you.
Travis, another question. So what, is it fines or what are the actions that we can take, just so to have an idea?
So that is a good question. We, as code enforcement, we can implement penalties for violations. It depends on what the code is violated for. Like for motor vehicles, we can't fine the property owner for motor vehicles that are like parked in front of their property. That's why it's a police department issue. But if it's something like zoning or lack of maintenance, that is something we can give them penalties, and if those penalties accrue and we have no action, we can either take action ourselves or we can put a lien against the property, and that lien will continue to accrue more and more penalties. So there is a financial lever, but we tend to try and spend 90% of our effort to try and get people to cooperatively be good neighbors rather than going right to the stick on every violation.
Any other questions or comments? Only thing I would throw out is that Brett has been great. She will follow up, and she will also get back to the community on that piece there. Okay. Any other citizens comment for items not on the agenda? Moving into approve agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Do I have a motion?
Yep, we had a motion by Councilmember Burke, second by Councilmember Freimark.
Perfect. Amanda, you want to take a vote, please?
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Moving into reports of city council. Loud and proud, please, city council members.
I'll make another announcement of the legal services that are available this Saturday and this is at the Presbyterian Church that's across from the middle school. There are 3 nonprofits involved and 3 legal foundations, so there's going to be a lot of resources, and it runs from 11 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon this coming Saturday. So anyone who's interested in that naturalization process, good resource, free resources.
Excellent. I heard that very well. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any other council members?
Maybe just a reminder, father-daughter dance is this Saturday at the high school. I'm pretty excited. I've got 2 dates, so.
Excellent. Mr. Friend? Any other items?
Our girls play high school basketball tomorrow at Ridgefield to go to state if they win. So I think it's tomorrow at 6 at Ridgefield High School.
And that would be to take them to state, correct, Gabe?
Yeah, if they win, I believe they would qualify for state.
Perfect. Any other items from city council?
Nope.
All right, moving into reports of advisory committees. Keith, you want to come up for chamber, please?
Okay, chamber report. The visitor center continues to be open 9 to 4, closed Tuesdays and for our luncheon, and Sunday open 10 to 2. We're going to have our chamber retreat on February 25th, and we'll do some chamber business and planning for the year that day. I've been working with Washington Department of Transportation and Washington State Patrol on keeping the vehicles reasonable at the park and ride. A lot of people will ditch their broken vehicle there or ditch the vehicle with bad tags or whatever. So we make sure and keep a close eye on that so that the vehicles aren't just sitting there filling that parking lot up. And they've been real good about making sure those get removed. I do, in keeping an eye on that parking lot, I do see some vehicles that are very regular there, but they are not parked there beyond their limits, which shows people are parking there and going and doing their business and coming back and getting their cars. But sometimes there was some questions on whether people were there too long and stuff, and so I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on that and have my employee do that as well. We had 86 visitors in January, so people are still visiting and asking questions and going up to the mountain when the weather permits it. And do you have any questions?
I don't. Anything from council?
Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Keith. All right, moving into officers, mayor's report. Couple things. First thing is I want to give a shout out to our road crew and public works for the ice and snowstorm last week. They did it, no PVAs, preventable vehicle accidents, no OSHA recordables, none of that. They kept the streets open. I also want to give a shout out to our community and our residents for being patient. Again, it's not like we have unlimited resources. We've only got so many snowplows and so many people, but again, I appreciate it, and I think that our road crews did a terrific job at it. Work stoppage. So the apartment complex over at the end of Gun Club, Gun Club, Insel, there still is a work stoppage there. They're working on some drainage and erosion issues. So if people get excited, reach out to us what's going on. So there is a work stoppage as they get their permitting and other things lined up. So if you have questions on that, feel free to reach out. Riley can address that. And then also, there was some discussion at a city council meeting several weeks ago about crosswalks and different things. I'm going to probably put Riley on the spot a little bit, but I want people to be aware. We've had conversations with WashDOT here quite a bit recently. Riley's been working back and forth on, obviously negotiations and conversations are still being had about crosswalks over at Norfolk Elementary School. So Riley, do you want to just touch on where that is? I know that we've reached out, we've had conversations with Asha, and she's very appreciative of your efforts, but do you want to just touch on that very briefly?
Yeah, I've had numerous conversations with WashDOT on not only a possible crosswalk on 503, but actually implementing a school speed zone in that area next to the school. WashDOT's not necessarily in favor of a school speed limit zone right there due to traffic coming in from the county. We've been over the RCWs. We've had conversations with the city attorney on our rights to establish a school zone. Obviously, with the new developments in the area, it's beneficial for the city to have a reduced speed zone right there for the safety of the kids and traffic in the area. Conversations are still ongoing, but this is implementing the school zone will then allow us the opportunity to then put in a crosswalk there in the future. So conversations are ongoing, but they're gaining traction in the city's favor.
Yep. Thank you, Riley. So I just want people to be aware that we're working on that, and it's one of those things that kind of goes back to with the roundabouts and the conversation, the question that Gabe asked about, 503 taking, getting it back from WashDOT, different things like that. Obviously, it does make it a little bit difficult when right through our city we do have 503 that is run and operated by WashDOT. So any questions or comments on that? Last thing I would touch on is there is a planning commission meeting here Thursday of this week. Obviously that is to go further and to talk further about the urban growth and those things like we talked about the last council meeting. Hopefully people, the citizens and council members will get involved because again, there is several hundred items that are proposed in there from the state, and we need to have good dialogue and conversation around that. Any questions, comments? All right. With that, we will move into consent items. Approve the minutes of February 3rd, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Houston, seconded by Councilmember Burke.
Any conversation, questions? With that, Amanda, will you take a vote?
Councilmember Friend,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action items. Action item C, approve vouchers for February 2025, first half.
Make a motion to approve the vouchers.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Houston, seconded by Councilmember Friend.
Any questions from the community or anyone online or any city council members before taking a vote? With that, Amanda, you want to take a vote?
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item D, ordinance 1570, amending WMC 13.04.240 nonprofit organization suspension of services for irrigation meters. This is our first reading following last meeting's workshop. Any questions or comments from the community or anyone online?
Just to make sure I understand, this is like Lilac Farms, they'll be able to file each year to shut off services until they need them again.
Correct.
Yes, exactly. And we're able to get the Lilac Farms on the 90-day current suspension, and with this, with the final reading, hopefully next council meeting, they'll roll over into the notice of non-use for this amendment.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 1570, the first reading.
Second.
With that, I have a first and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item E, authorize the mayor to sign MOU with Woodland Police Officers Association for the creation of a peer review process for all promotional evaluations for the position of sergeant. Any comments or questions from the audience or anyone online? Before we get into a motion, a little bit of background on this one here. This is something that the guild came to me and looked for. Some guilds have it, some guilds do not, as you look across the region. This provides them the opportunity, so when the sergeant position comes in play, they have a weighting say in the selection process. Again, it doesn't say yay or nay that they have to be hired, that person that they recommend, but at least gives them a voice in the process. This last go around when we had 2 sergeants available, I think people are aware. There was a little bit of conversation around it. The guild did not have a say in it. Ultimately, the 2 officers that were promoted to guild were highly sought after by the guild, and the guild was very pleased with the promotion of those 2 individuals. So they came to me and said, hey, listen, we would like to implement this. So Chief Gibbs and I have been working with them on this, and this was something that they came forward. And the city attorney has reviewed this. Any questions, comments?
Make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the MOU with the Police Officers Association.
Second.
Any conversation from council before we do a vote?
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any feedback from Chief to share with us or your thoughts.
I think it's a good thing because it allows the officers to have input, and it's not solely on the shoulders of the chief or the mayor. So their voice matters, and they're the ones on the ground with the individual who may become a supervisor or leader within the agency. And it's one more avenue that the chief, that the position I'm in right now that I have to take into consideration and when I do my evaluation as well.
Thank you.
So I think we have a first and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Friend,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item F, authorize the mayor to sign MOU with Woodland Police Officers Association for protecting promotional opportunities for WPOA officers and members. Any questions or comments from the audience or online? Little background on this one again. This is the guild coming to me. This wasn't something that I was looking to do. In the chief's contract, he does have the opportunity if something were to happen. He could go back to the guild, but they were saying, hey, they want to give other opportunities to other officers who get promoted into the non-represented positions to be able to have that reassurance that should something happen, they can come back into the guild. And so this was their way of saying, hey, listen, we would like to negotiate this and have it there. So not just Gibbs, but later on, if we were to hire a lieutenant or Gibbs was no longer our police chief and they were promoted out of the guild, this would offer that same opportunity to those individuals.
Make a motion to approve action item F.
One question first. Chief Gibbs, are you good on this MOU too?
Well, not to be biased, but it helps me, so yeah. But the honest answer is it helps to promote growth from within because it's very difficult decision to make to leave protections under the guild to go to an at-will position. And I think traditionally it would be good internally to have candidates who actually wanted to promote to that position at one point. I don't plan on going anywhere for the next decade, so I'm going to get comfortable, but I think it's a good thing to continue to grow internally, and I'm not going to work forever, so I think it's good for the city as well.
Thank you, Chief.
Make a motion to approve action item F.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any other conversation or questions other than Mr. Freimark's? Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Friend,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
And with that, it is now 7:57 p.m.
Make a motion to end the
Move.
meeting.
Second.
I hear a motion. It is 7:57. I call to order the meeting, or I'm sorry, the ending. Have a great night, everyone. Be safe.